So, where do you want to be? So, design the future. Design the future for yourself. What do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? That's an important question. From health, wealth, relationships, meaning. You don't have that slide, by the way, so I just added this one to tee this up. So there's a couple slides in here you don't have. All of those things. Meaning, happiness. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on each one of those? Have you sat down and defined where you want to be? Because if you don't have it, any road will get you there. It's like saying, how do you hit the target? Well, some people just shoot the gun, and wherever it lands, they say, well, that was my target. Instead of having the target. Having the target. I worked with Steve Jobs at Apple, and somebody says, genius. How do you define genius? Well, you can say IQ. And I said, well, here's a way to think about genius. Talent, you can hit the target that other people can't hit. Genius is seeing the target that nobody else sees. Think about that. Where do you want to be? And that's a personal question. You may be very content with where you are. And you say, I don't have any particular, I've achieved what I want to achieve in the business world. I'm more interested in watching my grandkids grow up or my kids grow up. That's a personal thing for each one of us. Just like the thing up here, be clear with yourself. Be clear with yourself. So, from a strategic point of view, design the future is think strategically. Future factors. What's going on in the world out there? What assumptions are you making? What are strategic issues that need to be addressed? How is the internet? How is technology changing your job? What are the trends going on out there? We don't have time to sit and talk about all those, but being aware of them. How do you get more creative? Here's a little tip. When somebody says to me, how do you get outside? We all think the way we think. You want to broaden your thinking? Subscribe to a thoughtful publication that infuriates you. We all watch the TV programs that we agree with, the news programs we agree with, the papers that we agree with, and never take the time to do what? Learn the other side. What's their argument? What points are valid? You watch TV programs of talking heads, all they do is argue. Very rarely do you say, let me tell you what I agree with. So broaden that. So what are the future factors? Future picture. Again, where do you want to be? Think like an architect, not like a bricklayer. Most of us look at where we are and then come up with, I could never do that, I could never do that. And we look at the obstacles instead of saying, where do I want to be? As Stephen Coffey said, begin with the end in mind. And then backtrack. What are my strengths? What are areas I need to improve? Create a complete design. Push the possibility envelopes. Make it measurable. What gets measured, gets done. Future conduct. That's the world that I live in. Act like a winner. Know what it takes to win. You want to go from a GA to a GE? What are my strengths? What are the areas I need to work on? I think here's a very fair question to ask your manager. Think about where you want to be. Go to your manager and say, 3 to 5 years, this is where I would like to be. From your point of view, what are my strengths? From your point of view, what are some areas I would need to improve in order to get your strongest possible recommendation? Are you going to need that recommendation to get from here to there? Yeah. So I think it's a fair question to say, from your point of view, what are my strengths? From your point of view, what do I need to work on? Somebody I worked with, they said, my manager said I need to do this. I said, what do you think? He said, I don't think I do. I said, well, then don't work at it. It's your own risk. Jack Welch, before he became the CEO of General Electric, he was great at doing certain paperwork. As soon as he became CEO, he got rid of it. People said to him, "You were great at doing this." He said, "I always thought it was a foolish document. But it was important to the people who were here. I could have never gotten this without being good at doing that was important to them." So you can fight City Hall, or you can say, if it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, I'll do it. If it's illegal or immoral, that's when you say, well, goodbye, I'm going to hit the door. So you make choices. So, future conduct, know what it takes to win. Create a complete design. Push the possibility envelopes. Make it measurable. Now, the next thing, belief sets of successful people. One of the things in our coaching and the work that we do is we work with successful people. How do we help shorten somebody's learning curve? That's one of the ways I describe myself as a coach. People say, well, what do you do? I help shorten people's learning curve. And I love when somebody says, well, they're young and they'll learn with time. And my response is the only thing that comes with time is age. There is no correlation between time and wisdom. We all know old fools who continue to do the same things over and over again. You're never too old to make a stupid decision. And you're never too old to set a new goal and have a new dream. But just time doesn't get you there. Doesn't get you there. Sitting down, and we become a culture that panders instead of ponders and thinks about important questions. We live in a little shell of sound bites, platitudes. Platitudes are good if you think them through and say, what does it mean to me? What does it mean to me? How well do I do that? So belief sets of successful people. I am successful. I am successful today. I don't see any reason why I will not be successful in the future. And the reason I will be successful in the future is because I choose to succeed. I choose to succeed. Now, you notice here we have some pluses and minuses. All morning I'm going to be going between behaviors. What are the pluses? What are the minuses? So if you think of the plus side of this, I am successful. These are the type of people that see themselves as the winners in the game of life. They have a contagious confidence. You just see it. It's written all over them. What's the flip side of that? That confidence can be seen by other people as what? Arrogance. I've never had anybody say to me, hi, my name's Chris. I'm arrogant. Who determines whether what you do demonstrates confidence or arrogance? It's other people's perception. What is it you're doing that comes across as arrogant to one person, and another person says, wow, that's a confident person. We're all different. Our brains all get connected, the neurons and synapses, different ways. Different ways. When I first got into this business, I'm from New York City. I interrupted people all the time. I figured, I know what they're going to say, so let me help them out and finish their thought for them, and we'll save some time. I thought, so I get some feedback that I interrupt people, I don't listen, Now I get that feedback in the 360, right? Like you get in your competencies. Everybody has encourage and accept feedback, so here I get it. What do I think about that feedback? People filling this out are confused. They don't know me that well. So I go home and I explain it to my wife and I show it to her. I said, can you imagine that? She said, well, that's the way you are here. I said, well, I don't want to talk about it. I don't think I'm that way here. But I think about it for a while. I go see somebody I do some business with and I share it with him and he says, can I take one of these tests? I said, why would you want to take one of these tests? He said, if it's that accurate about you, I'd love to see what it says about me. I said, am I really like that? He said, Chris, you got a strong opinion, you bowl over people, you're articulate, and you don't let anybody get a word in. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, there might be a thread of truth in this. Maybe a thread. So I decide to set a goal and say, I'm going to do a better job of, listening to other people's point of view, looking for what I agree with. So anyway, that's nice. I set a plan, share it with my wife. We go to a cocktail party, have a couple of cocktails, and, the night proceeds. And on the way home, I said to her, wasn't Jim a great guy? She said, well, I can see why you would think that. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, nobody else got a word in edgewise. The two of you had a monologue with each other. You weren't really even listening to each other. Nobody else paid much attention. And you were just trying to impress each other. He was a horse's ass just like you, so of course you would think he's a great guy. She said, now you asked for it. You told me you wanted me to be honest with this goal that you had set. I said, well, not that honest. So, behaviors are difficult to change. For me to get a person, forget an executive, a person who's used to being a teller, let me tell you what you need to do. To saying, what are your thoughts on this? Shut up, listen, build off of what I agree with. We talked about communication. One of the questions, communication. You think about communication. Good communicators know what to say at the right moment. They also know what not to say at a very tempting moment. I told you so. If you'd only listen to, instead of just, what'd you learn from that versus told you shouldn't have done it? And how often, is that a behavior that rings true to some people in this room? Whether it's our kids or our spouse or a coworker, and these are all little examples of behavior that just push people away. So we can talk about all of the great communication skills, PhDs in communication. Forget behavioral science. Can we get a good feel in a conversation with another person? Are we pushing them away, or are we pulling them toward us? If we're aware at all, can you get that feel? Are we connecting? I think so. Now, when we're not connecting, who do we blame? They don't get it. Now, an executive that I work with at Thomson Reuters, 3 months into an engagement, he said, I got to tell you something. When we first started to work together, and you said, conventional wisdom says it takes two to communicate well. And you said, you didn't agree with that. You said it takes one who's skilled at it. He said, I thought that was just consultant chatter. And he said, what I've really learned is that's so true. How do you control the dance? When you think about it, one person raises their voice. What does the other person tend to do? Boom, 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 boom. Now, simple technique. Somebody raises their voice, what do? Drop yours. I will guarantee you the other person cannot stay up here if you lower yours. Fascinating. And yet, the next time you're in one of those, you'll watch yourself do it. And you'll say, what if I just dropped? And I can tell you lots of stories of little things like that truly, tipping point behaviors that truly change an interaction with another person. Simple. Not easy.